Okay, so this is the annotation guide for the prologue. If you don't know what the things I'm highlighting for or writing little symbols for, you'll need to watch the annotation guide, which will be elsewhere on this channel. So the first thing you want to annotate is when I almost died, it was just after midday, which is of course foreshadowing, so we'll note that down. Then moving halfway down the page, but my country is centuries behind this one, so she's comparing the west with the east, because at this point she's in England. And then she writes, and for a moment I'm back in my valley, so we put the little symbol and a little image for the Swat Valley, which is a motif that she uses throughout the piece, not only to show how much she likes the Swat Valley and that is an actual place, but also to signify sort of the changes in the Swat Valley are also indicative of her belief and response to how sort of the country of Pakistan is going as well. So on page 2, the main thing is here for us girls, that doorway was like a magical entrance to our own special world. We cast off our headscarves like winds puffing away clouds. So those are both just quite straightforward similes, and they're used to illustrate the power and the love that she has for education, of course. Down the bottom of page 2, it's hard to imagine that anyone could see that as a threat. So we're going to annotate this for activism, which I've got as my yellow highlighter. And obviously she is an activist for various things, but the main one is of course girls' education and education by itself. Top of page 3, the Taliban who think girls should not go to school, which is of course gender roles. And she's kind of challenging the concept of the girl's role in society and also the Taliban's response to that. So we've got, in our culture, every man is your brother and every woman is your sister. So that's Pashto culture, which is something she uses a motif throughout. Part of her goal is to educate you about Pashtun culture, sorry, not Pashto. Then down the bottom of page 3, only a few times had I not come top. Each time I was beaten by my class rival, Malka-e-Noor. So I've got this little image here, which I use to signify competition, which is mostly with Malka-e-Noor, but also with her other classmates. Then top of the page, fear. I had started taking the bus because my mother was scared of me walking on my own. So draw a little frightened face, or write the word fear, whatever you prefer. Then another example of activism. I was more concerned they would target my father, as he was always speaking out against them. So that's activism there. We've got lots more activism down the page, so we'll do that as well. I just want every girl to go to school. That's sort of her manifesto almost, her activist belief. And then we've got a number of examples of the form of corruption, which is sort of her becoming westernized, which is sort of the Pakistani view on what has happened to her. Face lightning creams, Justin Bieber songs and Twilight movies, and these are all of course intertextual references as well, so we'll put a little symbol for that. Then again we have some gender. It's hard for girls in our society to be anything other than teachers or doctors if they can work at all. So that's a comment on her society, but also the role of gender within it. And then, don't worry, I told her the Taliban have never come for a small girl, which is again foreshadowing. Then over on the next page, the symbol of the diner. The bus was actually what we call a diner, white Toyota Ace truck with 3 parallel benches, one along either side and one in the middle. So to her, the diner represents sort of a level of safety until of course she's shot in it. The first ruler of Swat, so again Pashtun culture, and also the history of the Swat Valley. So we draw a little picture of Swat there. And the last page is a very short little prologue chapter. Again, we've got activism. Of course, the prologue is sort of setting up most of her main ideas, like her sort of manifesto at the start of the story. So we've got, since I'd started speaking at events with my father to campaign for girls' education against those like the Taliban who wanted to hide us away. You could also put gender roles as well if you wanted to do the double up there. And then we have just a simile where she says the man was wearing a pig cap and looked like a college student. So I guess maybe you would imagine that someone would picture their attacker as someone quite violent or scary, but she's kind of humanizing him through the simile of he looked like a college student. And that's the prologue done.